The whole courtroom fell silent as Gene Hackman's daughter told the jury the shocking truth. The death of the Hollywood legend and his wife was not normal, and was not a coincidence. What did the FBI miss? Who lied to the public about my father's death? What evidence is buried in the dust of Santa Fe? This story is not over, it has only just begun. The courtroom was filled with suffocating silence as eyes turned to Leslie Hackman, the only daughter of the late Gene Hackman. She stood there with a steady gaze but couldn't hide her tension. Today, in front of the jury, she would have to answer questions about her father's last months and about a truth that everyone wanted to know. Did she really know nothing, or had she been hiding something for a long time? Leslie had said that she had a very close relationship with her father. He still called me, and we talked once a week. She had also said in an interview that her father was very lucid, and that he still talked about the books he read and old movies. People were somewhat reassured by these words. Gene Hackman, who played strong, uncompromising characters on screen, seemed to have kept his sharpness in real life. But then, an unbelievable truth came to light. Leslie hadn't seen her father for months before he died. Evidence from phone records and testimonies from people close to Hackman showed that in the almost year before his death, he had very little contact with Leslie. The calls she mentioned didn't seem to exist were hers. When investigators looked into G. Hackman's last days, they found something strange. He hadn't left his house in months. Hackman lived with his wife Betsy Arakawa in a quiet home in New Mexico. He rarely went out in public, and neighbors said they rarely saw Hackman outside. This was very different from the picture of a healthy and happy man that Leslie painted. So why didn't Leslie realize this? If she really had a close relationship with her father, why didn't she know? She noticed the strange signs. One theory was that Leslie didn't really know because she hadn't been in touch with Hackman as much as she said she had. Another, scarier theory was that she knew everything but was hiding something. One of the most suspicious things was that Leslie only showed up after everything was over. She wasn't there for Hackman's last days or help with his care, and some in his family started to wonder why she seemed so close to her. Hackman's old friend and director, who had worked with him, said in a cryptic way that Gene wasn't the type to hide his illnesses. But not everyone wants to admit the truth. Was Hackman much weaker than Leslie said, or was there another secret she didn't dare admit? As the case went on, a number of hypotheses were put forward. Hypothesis 1. Leslie didn't really know anything about her father's condition because she hadn't really kept. She may have been estranged from Hackman for longer than she thought, and what she said about how close they were was just an exaggeration. 2. Leslie knew about her father's illness, but chose to hide it. She may have felt guilty for not being by his side, or there was a reason she couldn't tell the truth. 3. Something strange happened in Hackman's last months, and Leslie was trying to keep a secret. As the trial went on, one big question remained unanswered. If Hackman was really as healthy as Leslie said, why did he shut himself off from everyone? Why couldn't anyone but Betsy Arakawa confirm his true condition? Most importantly, why did Leslie seem so worried when asked about her father's last months? This story has many untold parts, but one thing is for sure. Leslie can't hide the truth forever. Chapter 2, A Legend in Decline. The medical investigation records were in front of Leslie Hackman, but she couldn't believe what she was reading. Her father had severe Alzheimer's and had had multiple heart attacks were something she had never heard of or imagined, and most importantly, she had denied to the media. But now there was undeniable evidence against her. From the start, Leslie had insisted that her father was completely healthy. He was still alert and lucid, and showing no signs of illness. She told the press, "My father is still reading books and can drive." But the medical reports showed a very different picture. According to the exam results, Hackman had been suffering from severe progressive Alzheimer's for at least 2 years before he died, and his memory loss wasn't a surprise to people who knew him. He forgot the names of old friends and how to get home, even though he had lived there for over 10 years. Some former housekeepers said he didn't even recognize his wife Betsy Arakawa sometimes. But what worried people the most was his heart condition. An investigation report confirmed that Hackman had had multiple heart attacks in the past, but this had never been made public. Treated him and wrote in the patient's file that he had a history of heart attacks and other signs of severe coronary artery disease. It's not clear why Hackman's family didn't report his medical condition. If Hackman was really that weak, why didn't Leslie know? As soon as this information came out, the media started to question Leslie's statements. It seemed strange that she didn't know about Hackman's illness, but she always said she had a close relationship with her father. Some reporters thought that Leslie had lived too far away from her sick father in his last years for her to have noticed his symptoms. A source from the hospital said that during Hackman's treatment, Leslie didn't visit her father even once. She can say anything to the press, but the truth is we never saw her at the hospital, an anonymous nurse said. So why did Leslie paint a different picture of her father? More questions were raised. Why did Leslie lie about her father? Hackman's health. If Leslie's father really did have Alzheimer's, why didn't she know about it? Did she not want to face the fact that her father had been non-lucid for a long time? One theory was that Leslie wasn't the only one who wanted to hide this truth. Some sources said that Betsy Arakawa, Hackman's wife, controlled all information about his health because she was the only one who cared for him in his last years and decided who could contact Hackman and who couldn't. I haven't seen Leslie here in at least 2 years. The only person who was always with Jean was Betsy. That meant Leslie wasn't lying, she just didn't know the truth because she hadn't spent much time with her father during that time. But this brought up an even bigger question. Why was Hackman so alone that his own daughter didn't know he was sick? When this story hit the news, it caused a huge stir of controversy. Was Leslie really a daughter who loved her father, or was she just trying to get attention? Many people asked if this was a typical case of a star's family trying to protect the beautiful memory of them to the point of denying harsh realities. Gene Hackman's fans also had different opinions. Some thought that Leslie didn't know about her father's illness because Betsy had purposely hidden it, while others thought that Leslie ignored the truth because she didn't want to face the image of a G. Hackman, who wasn't as strong as he used to be. Why did she say her father was conscious when all medical evidence showed otherwise? Did she really talk to Hackman as often as she said she did? Most importantly, was there a secret behind Gene Hackman's declining health? Whatever the answer, one thing was clear. The famous G. Hackman wasn't himself in his last years. He wasn't the strong, sharp man that everyone knew. He was struggling with a cruel disease alone in his home while Chapter 3. The suspicious deaths that shocked Hollywood. When the news came out that Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa had died, Hollywood was shocked. A silver screen legend had died, but what really upset people was how they died. At first the police called it suspicious, which is not usually done in natural death cases. Immediately, theories started to form, and people started to wonder, is this just a sad coincidence, or is it something more sinister? Betsy Arakawa's death was even more strange than Gene Hackman's, because she didn't have heart disease, no signs of serious health decline and no dangerous underlying conditions. However, the forensic report said she died of a rare disease that was spread by rodents. This shocked the medical community right away because this disease is so uncommon that we almost never see someone contract it in the United States, a doctor from the CDC said. It's also strange that a woman living in a mansion this disease could have spread in a very clean and expensive mansion. But that's not all. When police looked into Betsy's last days, they found out something strange. She had no contact with anyone outside of her family and friends, and there were no hospital records of her seeing a doctor in the past year. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and delivery staff said they rarely saw anyone answer the door. So how did she get the disease? Did someone purposely bring the pathogen into the house, Hackman's house, or was this really a rare accident? These questions immediately caused speculation in the media, and Hackman's death added to the confusion. After his wife died, Gene Hackman was almost completely alone. The previous housekeeper had quit, and for weeks no one knew exactly what was going on in his mansion. According to the forensic report, Hackman died alone, with no one by his side and no signs of medical care in his last days. This was in stark contrast to the fact that his wife had died. Unlike what his family had said about him, who was the last person to see Hackman alive? A postal worker once saw that his door had a lot of mail piling up, but no one came to pick it up. Nearby surveillance cameras showed that no one came or went in the 3 weeks before Hackman's body was found. If he really did have severe heart disease and Alzheimer's, as the medical report said, why weren't any doctors or nurses taking care of him? One theory was that someone took advantage of Hackman's loneliness to make sure he died. Wouldn't get help at the most important time, but who could do that? More importantly, why? Investigators quickly noticed a few details that couldn't be ignored. Hackman and his wife seemed to be living alone. Why did a couple with a lot of connections in Hollywood disappear from public view in their last months? Neighbors said they hadn't seen anyone entering or leaving Hackman's house for weeks, which was different from his usual behavior. Hackman used to enjoy talking to neighbors, but lately he seemed to have stopped. According to the medical investigation report, Hackman had severe heart disease and advanced Alzheimer's. If that was true, why were there no records of his care? There were also no new prescriptions, doctor's appointments, nurses, or caregivers showing up in his financial records. Hackman's security system had been turned off for at least 3 weeks before his body was found. Who turned it off, and more importantly, why was Hackman left alone? As the investigation went on, it became clear that Hackman and his wife's deaths were not random. People started to wonder who wanted to keep Hackman and his wife apart. Where did Betsy's rare disease come from, and why was Hackman left alone in his last days? As the case heated up, Leslie Ann Hackman Jean, Hackman's only daughter, had to testify in court. She never thought that she would have to address questions about her father's death. Since the deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa sparked a lot of debate, people started to pay attention to Leslie Hackman, who was the daughter of a legend. Leslie always talked about her close relationship with her father, but the biggest question was whether she really didn't know anything about Hackman's condition, or was she hiding something shocking? If she did know more than she said, could her testimony change the whole situation? With the release of new investigative documents, lawyers started to make a bold claim. Leslie and Hackman's testimony could be the most important key to finding out what really happened. According to sources from the Santa Ana police, Leslie hadn't seen her father in months, which is a long time given his health, so how could she say Hackman was completely healthy before he died, if she didn't know about Hackman's progressive Alzheimer's? It was a shocking oversight. If she knew but still denied it, that would be a major scandal that could even lead to a new investigation. There were still many questions about Hackman and Arakawa's deaths. Arakawa got a rare disease that is only found in rodents, which is a coincidence that should raise suspicion. Hackman, who was sick, couldn't call for help even though he lived in a big house, and most importantly, no one outside the house knew what happened for many years. Leslie's testimony could change the whole case, even though Gene Hackman was one of the great movie stars of all time. After leaving Hollywood in 2004, he almost completely cut himself off from the entertainment world, choosing to live a simple life in New Mexico with his wife. This led to the scary idea that he might have been completely alone in his last years if he had such bad Alzheimer's that he didn't know his wife had died many years before. Someone was using his illness to hide something, which became even more suspicious when his only daughter, Leslie Ann Hackman, said she didn't know anything about her father's illness. If Leslie really didn't know anything, it would be a tragedy for the family. A heartbreaking split between a famous father and his only daughter. But if she knew more than what was revealed, the truth behind this event could be much more complicated. Her testimony could be the last piece missing from the puzzle. Or it could push things even further, the case into an even bigger mystery. Would Leslie Ann Hackman be brave enough to tell everything, or would she keep quiet? Chapter 5: Hollywood Power and the Invisible Hands. For a long time, Hollywood has been both the world's film capital and a maze of power, ambition, and dark secrets. Legends of the past rise to the top of their fields only to disappear suddenly, sometimes because their fame is fading, and sometimes for reasons that no one dares to speak of. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa tried to leave Hollywood and live a quiet life. But did they really get away from the invisible hands that were controlling the entertainment industry? More importantly, did they know something that the powerful didn't want the public to know? An anonymous source once said that Hackman and Arakawa tried to cut off all contact with Hollywood because they wanted to live a quiet old age, and because they had found some truth that they knew too much about. This statement spread through whispered conversations in the entertainment industry and started a series of investigations. Of theories, but what did they know? Hackman was not only a talented actor, but he also had many relationships with powerful people in the industry. He had been to elite parties and heard conversations that regular people would never hear. Maybe in his later years, Hackman put together the pieces and found out a shocking secret. Or maybe he saw something that no one wanted him to say. Hackman and Arakawa weren't the only stars to leave Hollywood. There have been some strange deaths in this industry that the public still has a lot of questions about. Stanley Kubrick died suddenly after finishing Eyes Wide Shut, a movie that was said to reveal the secrets of the powerful elite. Brittany Murphy and her husband Simon Miyake both died in strange ways. The official cause of death was pneumonia, but many people think they were poisoned because they knew too much. Isaac Cappy was an actor who spoke out against the dark forces in Hollywood and was later found dead with a controversial cause. Are Hackman and Arakawa connected to these mysteries? Arakawa's death, which was caused by a rare disease that is only found in rodents, added to the suspicions. Hackman also died alone in a house that no one visited, with no one by his side during his last days. If these deaths were really natural, why did the police first call them suspicious? Gene Hackman was different from many of his contemporaries in one big way. He was never really controlled by the underground forces in the entertainment industry. He never joined any powerful groups, so maybe that's why he was always a possible threat. Someone who knew too much and would tell the truth if pushed to the limit. So what would happen if Hackman planned to reveal a shocking secret? That's why he and his wife left Hollywood all of a sudden. If these theories are true, did someone act before Hackman could speak out? Gene Hackman was once one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but in his last years he died in a strangely quiet way. Betsy Arakiwa, a healthy woman, died of a rare disease, and Lisa Ann Hackman, the only person who could explain everything, didn't know anything about her father's health. All of these things raise one big question. Were these events just random? Or was it all part of a plan? Chapter 6. A Daughter's Burden. The Scar That Never Fades. The darkness that shrouds Hollywood isn't just about mysteries of power and manipulation. It also weighs heavily on those who are still alive, leaving them with a lot of unanswered questions. For Leslie and Hackman, the death of their parents is not only a personal loss, but also a scar that will never go away. The public questions, the family presses, and the media never stops. Leslie stands in the eye of the storm of public opinion, becoming the subject of the biggest questions. Does she really not know anything about her father's health? Or is she purposely avoiding it? Is she hiding a bigger secret? Or is she just a victim in this mysterious play? No matter what the answer is, this event has shook Hollywood and changed Leslie's life. The medical report showed that Hackman's father wasn't healthy at all before he died. But Hackman herself had end-stage Alzheimer's, severe heart disease, and had had multiple heart attacks before. She is constantly being questioned about how she could have not known about her father's condition and why she said he was healthy when all the evidence pointed to the opposite. Did she really believe that, or was it a cover-up? Her every word was scrutinized and her every action was scrutinized. There is one thing that can't be argued about. Leslie did lose both of her parents in the strangest way. The pain is real, and it's a wound that can't be healed. Leslie was under pressure from the media, the public, and even her own family. Some thought she was too careless and distant from her parents in their last years, while others thought she knew more than she told them. Leslie herself was torn between different feelings. What was she to do? People outside of her family blamed her for not seeing them more often. Could she have done anything to stop this tragedy if she had known sooner? Did she really think this was just a series of random events? These were the questions that kept going through her mind every night. Some conspiracy theories said that Leslie might be involved in this dark story, either on purpose or by accident. What if she knew more than she admitted? People kept asking her if her parents had given her any warnings that she ignored. They wonder if Leslie heard strange things from Hackman or Arawa but didn't pay attention, or if she was even forced to stay quiet. Of course, these are just theories. There is no proof that Leslie was involved in any plot. But there is no denying that she has become the target of all suspicion. The disappearance of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arawa was not only a tragedy for the family, it caused a stir in Hollywood, raising bigger questions like how many other famous people have gone missing without an explanation. It's still not clear if Hollywood is a safe place for art, or just a machine run by invisible forces. What other secrets are hidden behind the stage lights? And most importantly, who will be next? This story isn't over, and maybe it never will be. Hollywood is where great stories of glory, power, and hidden tragedies behind the velvet curtain are born, but some of those stories have mysteries that will never be solved and cracks that can never be fixed. For example, the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakiwa. There are many theories about what happened with Marilyn Monroe. She was a famous actor, her husband kept to himself, and the story ended in a suspicious way. The scariest thing is that the truth may have been buried forever. Leslie Ann Hackman will always be haunted by unanswered questions. Is she a victim or part of the mystery? Does she really know nothing, or is she hiding a truth that is too painful to face? Whether she finds the answer or not, she will live her whole life in the shadow of suspicion. There were a lot of rumors that Natalie Wood and Brittany Murphy were the next victims of an invisible force, or just the irony of fate. This story doesn't have a real ending. It's just one of many mysteries in Hollywood history where reality and fiction mix, and the truth is sometimes never known. For people who still have questions, there is only one truth. Silence may be the best answer.